What up? Bobo here, guys. What's happening? Hope y'all are doing good. Thank y'all for joining me for some more popcorn, a little quick little discussion about what I might be feeling like I'm going to get some hate for. But you know what? I just want to talk about it. And I have no shame. I'm a big believer in not having any shame in what makes you happy in life, unless it's hurting someone else. Love what you love, like what you like. And I don't like jumping on bandwagons. I've been accused of liking too much from people before. That's fine. I like to like things. I like to enjoy myself. I don't want to hate on things all the time. And a lot of times too, I'm not reviewing things that I didn't care for as much. I've been trying to just review things that I like. Uh, but this movie, Halloween Ends, it's been extremely polarizing. There's some people, Cinemassacre, James Rolfe, he's talked about how he hates this movie more than like part 5 and part 6, which, I actually don't find it a whole lot of like redeeming qualities about part 5. Part 6, there's a lot of it that I like. It's ridiculous, but as far as filmmaking is concerned, what's presented to us visually on the screen, there's a lot to like there. Excuse me. But Halloween Ends, you're either gonna, I don't think that there's any middle ground with this movie of well, I kind of liked it. I think you either really got it or you hated everything about it. Um, Somebody that I like a lot of their reviews, and then sometimes I don't agree with all their reviews, but is Lee McCoy, Drum Dum Nation. Um, it's he likes this movie. And I don't just like it because he's liked it. I liked this movie before I listened to any reviews. And which, by the way, I want anybody listening to know, I don't watch any reviews until I've done my review. Not I'm not even talking about watching reviews before I see the movie. I don't watch any reviews until I've done my review. All right, Jello Flubberfart. I love it. How you doing? That's a great name. Hell of a name right there. um, but I don't review anything. Excuse me. I don't watch anyone's reviews until after I've done my review because I don't want any of their stuff seeping into my subconscious. And there's a lot that I agreed with about about Halloween Ends with Lee McCoy. But let me first off and just say this: if you clicked on this thumbnail, then you clicked on it because of what it said. Yes, did they leave Michael out more than I expected them to do? Of course. I did not expect the route that they went. A part of me kind of did a little bit just because of David Gordon Green being a fan of films and being a fan of Halloween 3, which arguably that movie over time people have liked. They like it now that they know there's no Michael Myers. The problem with that movie is they advertised Halloween 3. This is back in the day with no internet, no nothing. And people walk into this movie and then they're like, are you kidding me? No Michael? What the shit? So this one at least advertised Michael. It had Michael. And the more I watch it, I've watched this movie 4 times now. And the more I watch it, it really is a good movie. And I'm realizing now, and this is also something that Lee McCoy said, this movie is actually, this entire trilogy, David Gordon Green's trilogy or whatever you want to call it, is actually about Haddonfield. It's not necessarily about Michael the whole time. It's about what Michael's done to the town. And it's about how it's affected people and they can't get this stain off of them. And, think about, and I hate to compare it to this, but, just think about a town that has a mass shooting or something like that. That town is never the same. 40, 50 years later, they're never the same. And I kind of associate it with this right here with Michael. What he did in 1978 has not allowed so many different people because of how he affected them in random ways, whether you had a loved one that died by him or you were actually a part of it, like Hawkins, had your opportunity to kill him and you didn't. It truly shows how he's affected this town and they can't get past it. The daughter, the granddaughter, with Karen and Allison. Allison's boyfriend, her relationships after all this stuff. Michael comes back, obviously, and that's still affecting them. So it really is about the town at Haddonfield and what Michael's done to it. And if you think of it in those terms, and if you rewatch 2018, if you rewatch Halloween Kills and you rewatch Halloween Ends, it really is much more about Halloween. I mean, excuse me, about Haddonfield. Hey, he says, "Hey, dude, I respect everybody's opinion. I really do, man. And also, I also understand why people walked out of this movie not feeling like that they feeling like they got robbed. You know what I mean? Because it, like he says, by flubbery means shit. Yeah, I feel like I get that. I feel like that it did kind of sway you a little bit. You know, if you're watching this trailer, they show you a lot of scenes with Michael, but they kind of show you, they don't show you all the scenes in their entirety, but they kind of show you a clip from every moment that Michael's in the movie. And, you know, when we see Michael, don't get me wrong, man, he's all dilapidated and everything like that. And actually, I think this is a shot from Halloween Kills. Sorry. But a lot of people didn't like what they did with Halloween Kills with the whole evil thing. I kind of like that. And if you think about what Donald Pleasance has always said, he's always said it's pure evil. He's not a man, he's pure evil. You know, the blackest eyes. So I like that they went with the evil route, and I like that David Gordon Green didn't over explain it in Halloween Ends. He just left it to where it needed to be and kind of let you put it together visually with what happened with Corey and Michael. Did I expect him to go that route? No, I didn't. Did I think it was bad? No, I think it was a well-made movie. They did kind of jip people with Michael, but I've been one of those kind of guys that I tend to look at things in a different lens in the sense that I do love a regular old slasher. I do love a slasher coming in and just being like, here we go, another Michael movie. But we kind of got that with Halloween Kills. Halloween 2018 sort of brushed the dust off of something that we loved and brought it back to what we loved about it instead of having all this crazy stuff that Rob Zombie did and these whack sequels with all the, you know, the Thorn cult and all that. But they definitely brought it back to what we liked about Michael. And in Halloween Kills, I feel like that was his version, David Gordon Green, of being like, I want to do a full on Michael slasher because the body count's absurd in that movie, but I love it. And they did add that evil element. You know, some people argue that, okay, wait a minute. He got all this damage done to him at the end of Halloween Kills, and then he got up and was able to kill them all and walk away and kill Karen. And then Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie takes him down single-handedly at the end of this one. But the more I've watched it, the more I realize is that the evil is what fuels Michael. The evil is what's been dominating this town because of how strong the evil is inside of Michael. And the more he, you know, kills, the more he transcends, like Jamie Lee Curtis said in part 2 or Halloween Kills. And so I feel like that the more that the good is prevailing and starting to work against him, the more that he's actually not as strong anymore. So the way I look at it is in 2018, he was really building that momentum back up and he was like, all right, I'm becoming a strong mofo right here. And then in Halloween Kills, he's like, I'm on acid right now. I'm ready to go and nobody's going to stop me. And then they get a lot of the upper hand on him at the end of Halloween Kills, so much to where he does make it out, but he barely makes it out because by the time we see him in Halloween Ends, we do see that he's all dilapidated and he's, you know, he's got his shoulder up like this when he's walking. And so I do like that sort of representation of the evil instead of it being like that he's absolutely unstoppable. You know, like if he were to be getting just a ton of headshots and not standing up, then I'd be like, all right, this is ridiculous. But the fact that it don't get me wrong now, we're talking about Michael Myers. We're talking about a fictitious thing here. We're talking about something that's talking about evil consuming a man. But I like to look at movies as metaphors. And even if they're supposed to be in a realistic world, sometimes I don't mind them breaching realism just a tad. Because to me, that's what makes it a movie. I'm not the biggest fan of going to see a movie that's just like, man, this was awesome, but it was just like real life. I kind of like to go to the movies to be in a little bit of a fantasy world. That's not to be saying that I don't like, you know, accurate movies like Schindler's List and stuff like that. That's a whole other thing. I'm talking about when I'm going to watch Michael Myers, or I'm going to watch a horror movie or Halloween movie, I like to be entertained. And this one still gave us Michael. It didn't take Michael away. It just sort of added this idea of that evil has sort of shadowed this town. And the more, and again, the more I've watched this, the more in this opening, excuse me, right here, the more in this opening scene with Corey when he's with the parents, there's a lot of dialogue with the parents of them talking about how, oh, this has happened and this has happened, yeah, and all the, you can tell that the whole town is really focused on Michael, and the town is also making their sort of judgments towards Laurie and the situation and her family with Allison and Karen. And that's kind of what goes on. If you think about real life, the way we look at political situations or people that are on trial or something that we see like on Dateline or whatever, we kind of make up our mind about this person and judge them before we really even know what's going on. And sometimes we're like, oh yeah, but they shouldn't have done this, and that's what you get for putting yourself in this situation, whatever. And but in all actuality, we don't know the story, and I think that they displayed some of that in this movie really well. That like people will start to make up their own minds about what happened, sort of like that Tool song, "Vicarious." We all feed on tragedy. It's like blood to a vampire. Um, yeah. So I got another comment from Flubberfart here. Says where that part where Laurie puts the refrigerator was unrealistic because how the hell is an old lady supposed to defeat an immortal being? Hey, look, I get you. I do think in this movie, though, he was like almost out of gas. That's the way I look at it, though. That's the way my brain processes it. Not saying that that's correct. I'm not saying that that's the actual lore. I'm not sure if there really is a rule book when it comes to this stuff. And part of the fun, I think, to it is when people do add an addition to the character. Because if we didn't get people risking filmmaking and didn't get people having let me see if this works, then we would just get the same old regurgitated bullshit. There wouldn't have any freshness. But occasionally somebody implements something that's a chance and it's a risk and it does work. And then we're like, boy, they added something really awesome to the character here. And for me, I think that this movie is going to gain cult following over time, man. I really do. I I'm not I'm not saying that this movie is the best Halloween movie by any means. I'm not saying that at all. I like what it was at the end of David Gordon Green's trilogy. I like that it wrapped up a little bit of story. I like that they cook up the good story. Yeah, then they put him in the meat grinder. That was awesome. I mean, that was a great way to kill Michael. But overall, I just like that this trilogy of his exists. It's not my favorite, but I do think that it took a risk, and I do like the idea of it being about Haddonfield and bringing this evil to the town and adding all this shadow because of so much evil you implemented in 1978 and re-implemented in 2018. So now, could this movie have been a little longer to where they could have touched on a couple of other things? Could there have been more Michael in it? Yeah, I would want more Michael for sure. No question about that. But like I said, every time I've rewatched it, I really am finding myself enjoying it, and I'm getting wrapped up into there's even like an evil vibe in this film. There's this vibe that has this just evil presence lurking throughout it. That's I don't know, it just works for me. That's the best I can say it. So we got another comment here from Flubber. He says he's got a theory that Lori gets stronger every time she hurts Michael. Me and my friend came up with that theory, so she hasn't had to be immortal. Yeah, so that's you're right. That's kind of the way I think about it too, is that she where Michael gets more power, the more evil he gets, the more she defeats Michael, the more that her good is prevailing. And so therefore it's almost like she's gaining the power, the more she gets the upper hand and back and forth. I mean, that's it might sound kind of simple and stupid, but that's kind of the way I view it. Now, the biggest thing that I think that I have some sort of I still like it and it's still cool, but I'm still kind of having to process it is what goes down. And I think David Gordon Green did this on purpose because Corey even asked the question later. But what goes down with Michael and Corey? Does he let her live? Or does he let Corey live because he sees this evil inside of him? Because he sees all the things that happen. There's this like transference of information from Corey to Michael. And they just kind of let you put the pieces together on by showing you that scene. They don't tell you anything. He doesn't explain it. He just is forever changed after that. Um, I don't mind that being in there, but I'd like to know if he did that before with Laurie, like if because Laurie talks about I've seen those eyes before, and if she's seen those eyes and she saw those eyes in Michael, or in Corey. She's like, I see Michael's eyes in Corey. I'd just like to know it, like, was she almost taken in and wrapped up into that one point? Like, has Michael actually let her live? I don't know. That now I'm kind of getting off track, but I mean, that's kind of the point of this deal. And also, I would have liked for the fight between Michael and Corey, like when he first gets in there and they're struggling back and forth for a little bit, and finally take not when he first gets in there, but after he comes back and he takes the mask from Michael. I would have liked that struggle to have been a little bit more of a like he actually bashed something on over Michael's head or something. He kind of got away with the mask a little too easy, if you ask me. But I do subscribe to the fact that Michael is very like battered and bruised and dilapidated and just worn at this point in this storyline. So I do think that that's the way part of the reason he was able to get the upper hand. And you see when Michael kills that one cop at first, and Corey's holding him for Michael, and Michael finally starts stabbing him. You see Michael like do this whole like it's like the energy or the evil's like flowing back into him, and it's almost like not necessarily healing him, but maybe sort of putting the evil steroid adrenaline drug inside of him to keep him moving and keep that evil just going. Because I do think that he's battered. I do think that he gets the scars and everything. And I do think over time, finally, she cuts his wrist and his throat and all that. And even when she cuts his throat the first time, he's still going. But finally, they just bleed him out. And like I said, then they dropped him in the meat grinder. So overall, I think this movie's about Haddonfield. I think that it's about how Michael's evil has influenced the town, how it's affected lives, it's affected generations passed down from people that are affected directly to it, but people that are directly involved with 1978 are all still alive. Um, and this Corey edition, I dig it. I like it. It's not what I was expecting. I'll be straight up. I wasn't expecting it at all. Uh, but I I liked that it wasn't just another thing of Michael going around killing everybody. I mean, is that what we really wanted? Just another hack and slash? So over time, I think this movie is going to grow on a lot of people. And it definitely was trying to do a Halloween 3. It was, I mean, even the font in the beginning is the same exact font. It's the blue slanted Halloween font, that's at the beginning of Halloween 3. And if you remember at the beginning of Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, when they first started off, there was this very ominous music going over, just this like, oh, yeah. And then the movie starts kind of creeping in and the credits, it just starts going into the scene or whatever. And this one, it starts off with this like radio station playing in the background, and here a guy talking. So right away, I knew it was going to be different, but I didn't know how different. I do like the kills in it though. I mean, I think some of the dialogue could have been a little bit better with the teenagers. I just not that I didn't mind the teenagers getting I liked them all getting killed and their deaths were fine, but I could have handled their dialogue to be a little bit better. And I thought this fight was awesome. It was great to me. But it was way too short. Way too short. It needed to be longer. But I loved everything that was happening in it. I love the intensity. I love Laurie, the way she's portrayed in all three of these David Gordon Green films. Um, and the fact that, it just seems to be Michael's not after her necessarily. It seems to be that forces keep bringing them together. The doctor brought them together in 2018 Halloween and Halloween Kills, because again, those take place the same night, and she never even sees Michael on Halloween Kills. But then somehow or another, because of Corey and the evil transfer, and maybe evil led him to that area. Who knows? I know the kids push him off the bridge, but maybe the evil did lead him to that area in the first place. Maybe it was sort of just coaxing him. And the fact that he sort of led Michael back to Laurie because of Allison with their whole thing. I don't know, man. I mean, it's just, I'm just throwing the ideas out there. Is it that the universe and forces were, or does Laurie kind of represent good? Does Michael kind of represent evil? I mean, this is in a world, I guess, where, you know, none of these, this is in a world where Michael's the only real killer. There's no Friday the 13th, or there's no Jason or anything, there's no Freddy. Um, so you were saying how long? What do you mean by that? How long? Um, but overall, I'm not, and I'm talking to you, Flubber. You had put up here how long, and I'm just not sure what you're referring to. Overall, it's not my favorite Halloween movie ever, and I don't think that it just nailed it being like, "Oh my god, guys, this is amazing." I do think that it's gonna get better over the time. I do think that when you rewatch it, you might be like, "Okay, it's actually pretty good. It's a good movie," and that's the thing. It's not necessarily a Michael Myers movie. It's just not. I mean, it just isn't. But it still is a Michael Myers movie because of what he's done, and all these things that are happening in this movie wouldn't necessarily happen if it wasn't for Michael Myers. Um, Even the whole thing with the kid and the mom and the dad in the beginning, that kid wouldn't have been behaving the way he was behaving and been this little weird, awkward kid if it wasn't for him being freaked out of what happened in his own town. And so therefore, who knows? Maybe he wouldn't have even pranked him. Oh, you were saying the fight. How long was it? Man, I mean, it definitely wasn't any more than 10 minutes, but I think it was more like 7 or 8 minutes, and then that might be even pushing it. That might be including, you know, from the time that he actually, like, picks up the mask and then walks over to her, and then they finally start fighting. I'll have to record it, the time-wise, and I'll rewatch it again. I'm thinking about doing a watch along and just doing commentary like this and just kinda watching it on my other screen right here. And if somebody wants to join, cool, and if not, no worries, but I just first off, I do love David Gordon Green as a director. I like all the Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, Righteous Gemstones, all that stuff. But I do like what he's done with this franchise. Wasn't the way I expected it to end, but I do think it was mature and it did something new and different. And people will remember this movie forever. That's for sure. And I do think it'll grow on people over time. I do believe it's going to gain a cult following. So hey guys, that's going to be it. I'm not going to talk too much more about this. I just want to kind of to give my thoughts about how I think that this is a really good movie and it actually gets better every time I watch it. It's different than I expected, but I think it is good and just maybe try to see it through a different lens next time you watch it. And like I said, try to see it this whole trilogy that David Gordon Green's done, try to see it as it being about Haddonfield and what it's done to the people of Haddonfield, not necessarily just about Michael. It's about what Michael has done to these people and how it's lasted and stained them. So that'll do it, guys. Thank you so much for clicking on this and joining me. Hey, Flubber, thanks a lot for joining me, man. Subscribe if you don't mind, if you haven't already, and join us next time. I'm not sure what next live stream I got coming out, but I got a couple other reviews I'm about to put out here for some other horror films for the month, and I got some top fives that Andrew and I were working on. Just got a little busy house sitting this week, so hey. Guys, thank y'all so much. And oh, hang on one second. I got one more comment from Flubber. You're saying it would have been cool if Allison turned out to kill Laurie at the end and know that Laurie had survived because it's quite unquote her movie. It would have been cool to see Allison be the next killer. I could see that. I think that would have started to maybe tiptoe and tread into uh wearing out your welcome with these characters. I think that if anything, I could have seen maybe Corey going forward and being some sort of a killer, but if they do a Halloween movie completely without Michael Myers, I ain't having it. Sorry. Like one of the reasons this movie worked for me is because it still was revolved around Michael. You know, Halloween 3, I do love that movie now, but it's only because so much time has passed. And now that I see it through this different lens, it should have been Halloween 3 should have just been called Season of the Witch. That everybody I think has agreed on that. Shouldn't have even had the Halloween title in there. But I do gotta go, guys, because I gotta cut this off and start working on some other stuff, and I got an appointment to meet. So thank y'all so much. Also, check out the trailer for Lake Court on my channel here. If you guys haven't, we're shopping. That's my short film that my buddy, my partner, my business partner Andrew and I did with our Full Circle Films production. But Lake Court's a cool little horror short we did. Check out the trailer on the channel. It'll be up on the channel at some point, but right now we're entering it into festivals and we can't have it in the public eye. Festivals won't accept it that way. So, anyways, check it out. Lake Court. It's trailer on the channel. Well, guys, thank y'all so much. Again, I promise I'm leaving this time. Y'all have a great evening. And remember, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh popcorns. Oh, yeah.